What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Smart Flip, episode 11. Today, guys, we're going to be talking about regular type of reselling, like thrifting and garage sale flipping and like stuff like that, versus flipping electronics and high value electronics and things like that. So, um, let's talk about it. So, I had ChatGPT actually come up with a lot of questions for us that I think will be super valuable to everybody here. We don't have a guest this week, or on this episode anyway. But we're gonna keep on bringing in guests every single, well, or at least try every single week. But we're gonna keep it
Yep.
consistent with the content either way. So, guys, I want to talk a little bit about like what we basically call like, and this might sound rude, but basically trash reselling. Like, let's be real. Like, we're going around. Like, there are dumpster divers out there that jump into dumpsters and they flip stuff and they make some money. But I mean, both Matt and myself have both done this, and
Yep.
it takes a lot of time. Like, let's be real. Like, a lot of time, a lot of searching around, a lot of effort. These are, and then this even goes into like the garage sales, the thrift stores, estate sales, flea markets, curbside pickup stuff,
Yep.
uh, which we've both done. But both Matt and myself kind of tend to lean more towards flipping the higher value electronics, and we want to talk a little bit about that today because I know that can be a place of like contention for a lot of resellers, especially whenever they're selling items that are $100 plus. I
Yep.
just had a and we have issues too. Like there's issues in our business that we'll talk about today and we'll bring to the light. I literally had a return request this morning that 8 years ago would have sank my heart, right? Like I had a 600, I think it was $679 MacBook return, and it was just like, oh man. But I just woke up and I was like, all right, whatever. And I approved it and I was like, okay, cool. Well, I'll just relist it as soon as it gets back before I refund them.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
because I know it's going to sell fast. That's the beauty about it, is like I'm not worried about getting a return because I know it's an electronic and it's a very high value electronic and it's going to sell quick, you know? So let's talk about it. Matt, I mean, I'm sure you've done and I think you still do a little bit of the garage sale flipping and interesting flips like that. Let's talk about it. Like, what does
Yeah.
that look like?
I think it looks like being particular and having a very keen awareness of where the value is. Because I don't think, like, I want to be clear on Chris's behalf and mine. We're not throwing shade at people that are resellers that maybe like buy and resell stuff like this. What we're trying to do is, I think, make this more of a filtered process that really rewards you more for your time, your energy, and your focus that you've invested into a business. Because what are we doing? We're giving time in exchange for money. Do you want that to be less or more? And if you're reselling just about everything, I think I need to say this first, Chris, in segue to answering this question is you're going to spend as much time listing a 10, 15, $20 item as you would a three, four, $500 item in a lot of ways. And so like, I just want everybody to be very overtly aware that if you're going to spend about the main amount of time doing either, like, what do you want? Do you want to make more money for the time that you're investing, or do you want to sell, um, I don't know, Ed Hardy shirts for $20 a pop? Uh, or do you want to resell an iPad or a camera and make two, three, four, $500? I don't know. I know where I stand, and I'm going to leave this up to you guys that are listening, that are hearing this, to deliberate for yourself. Okay, you can resell and flip anything. Okay, but I know where I stand on this side of the conversation or fence, and so let me answer Chris's question to be clear. Um, I went to a garage sale about 3.5, maybe 4 weeks ago. Drove out of town. I identified that it was a garage sale on Facebook Marketplace, and the item I went and bought was a Nintendo 3DS Galaxy XL, like limited edition, like cosmic DS console. And it came with like a game, full setup, plus the original instruction manual, stylus, charging cable, everything, right? And I bought that for $100 at a garage sale. I sold that on eBay for $285. That's the type of flip I'm interested in a garage sale. And when I got to the garage sale, I also identified a Sony Handycam that the guy wanted. I think he wanted 40. I talked him down to 35, and I flipped that and sold that on eBay for $193. And then I bought 10 PlayStation 2 games, and they were like two PS3 games for 50 cents a piece. So I paid $5 for 10 games, and I immediately sold two sets of those games for $50 each. Okay. Um, that was very rewarding for my time. It was worth the drive, it was worth the gas, it was worth all of it. Okay. But I knew where the value was, and I knew that I was going to get more in exchange for my time, effort, and energy than just, I don't know, reselling like a Carhartt jacket. And not to undermine the Carhartt jackets, because there's all these keyboard warriors out there, and I gotta like be aware of some of you guys, but I'm simply saying like that's a good flip. I mean, every one of those is like it's not even 100% ROI. It's like way ahead of that, right? So that's why I resell consoles. And Chris, you know that. You know that. Chris likes to call me console king, but I kind of internally think of myself more as the ROI king, only because I run my business model based on ROI, because ROI to me is a keen indication of how I need to use my time, energy, and focus to get what I want out of the products that I'm selling, which says, okay, I'm going to be more exclusive on what I buy. I'm not going to run around and grab everything. Plus, who wants their house filled like a bunch of people's like old clothes and stuff? And I know some people out there are very organized, but let's be real, the majority of people are not. The majority of people are running this as a side hustle before it becomes a full-time hustle. And if you make it a full-time hustle, you probably had to learn to get organized, or you have what we call a death pile sitting in some variation of your house, carport, storage, right? Or office, or it could be like a whole room, for crying out loud. Some of you guys know this because I've seen the photos, I've seen the groups on Facebook, right? All your death pile destruction stuff. Like that's insane. Like I want to run my business. I don't want my business to run me. So I'm very specific about what I buy. And I feel like Chris, I feel like you and I are like we're on the same wavelength here. You know what I mean? It's like I know our approach to electronics is slightly different, but you also know that I don't mince words and mess around when it comes to like, yo, I'm gonna help you bang out a really good return if you want to work with me as a coach. Because I know where the value is, and I'm not gonna preach to you about going to buy like some trash console or other stuff that's not going to really reward you for your effort.
No, yeah, we're here to make money, you know?
For sure.
Yeah, it's fun, but it's also like we're here for a reason, right? So
Right.
I think like with the regular reselling stuff, with all of the that kind of thing, like the products, dude, they vary like so much,
Hmm.
right? Like from clothes to furniture to household goods to collectibles, like all
Yep.
sorts of like stuff. And we've seen a lot of our students like start with electronics and then veer out into other things and then come back, and
Hmm.
we've seen that a lot because they get the skills and they're like, oh, what else can I flip? Right. And then it takes them like 25 days to sell that one thing that they were going to make $20 on. Right. And it's like,
Yep.
I could have just sold a Oculus Quest in, way less time. Right. And I think like there's also like how I like to think of this too, like when it comes to sourcing, like the amount of like knowledge that it has to take up the space in your head
Bro.
in terms of like knowing how to price things, and
Yeah.
like the amount of time spent going through eBay listings to find one listing for that one thing that you might be
Yeah.
looking for, or to taking the photo using eBay. Can you imagine like how much mental like space that takes up? Like
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
much. When somebody can just hit me with an iPhone 13 Pro Max and I can just say, "Yeah, we've been buying those for 200 recently." Like I can boom, quick, done, right?
Yep. Yep.
Like, and so I think the with the traditional reselling, it's all the garage sales, it's the thrift stores, the estate sales, flea markets. I actually there was a guy that I met a while back when I lived in Beaumont, Texas, that was doing that. He would just go and buy out estate sales all the time. Like was his business model. Totally But so I actually went to his he had to have a storage location
Yeah,
to store all of the stuff that he was buying. And he brought
yeah.
me there and he's like, "Yeah, dude, these things sell for 15 bucks by themselves." And I'm like, "Yay." Like um
Yeah.
okay.
Well,
I was like, but like the storage thing was stacked, man, like to the top. And I was like, dude, I got like 20 things at home on my shelf that half of them are already sold this weekend. It's like,
yeah. And probably worth equally as much, if not more, taking up
yeah,
much less space and not living in your head rent free. Um, so like I think about that. I think about and like all due respect to the people out there that have a warehouse or a space, it's like I get it, but in practical terms, how many people have the convenience of, oh yeah, I've got a warehouse out back of my house. I've got, half acre with a whole nother building to store this stuff so that these long tail or long term items that sell on eBay, when they take 3, 4, 6 months to sell, and okay, you make $900, $1,200. I've flipped exercise equipment, right? Bought a piece of equipment once for $300. I sold it for 2,500, right? That's an incredible return. The thing was living in my garage for 6 months, and I had to build a skid, a literal skid, like, and I had to build like a frame around it, and then I had to like send it like via freight.
that's
Um,
crazy,
and
dude.
right, so if you're bought into that business model, that's fantastic. You can make incredible returns, and I know people that do that and kill it. Um, Practically speaking, I have a house, I have a storage shed, and I have a carport. Um, do I have stuff in those spaces? Yes. But I can still sit in those spaces. I can enjoy them. I can park my cars there, and it's not occupied by like, I don't know, boxes and bags of clothes that I, went and bought from, I don't know, whatever sale or something like that. Like that's the thing for me is like how all this stuff isn't just in your literal space, it's in your figurative space, it's in your head. And then it like gets in your emotions. And then it bogs you down. And it's like, I think the point of having stuff to sell, this is going to sound very simple, and Chris will preach to you about this just as well, is to sell it. Like the point of having stuff to sell is to get it sold.
It's the point
Because,
of reselling.
right, like why have all that? Like there are so many people that their ambition to stay on the hunt is more, and their skill for that is more pronounced than their ability to sell it. And that's a tragedy because you don't you don't want all that stuff. You don't want that stuff running your life. You should be running it. And I'm just going to say, who has the power? The inanimate objects that you're reselling, they have the power, or do you?
Yeah, no, 100%, dude. Like, think about how much time that takes listing all of that. So I was actually scrolling through Facebook the other day, and there was this guy who was showing like how much he was reselling on eBay. And so it was like I think it was nine or $11,000 in sales, but he had sold 242 things. And I was like, bro, like let me show you something, man. Like
Yeah.
let
How
me
many
let me
items
help
do you,
you.
yeah. How many items do you have right now listed on your eBay?
Mine?
Yeah.
Not many. I think it's like 15 total. And that adds up to like I think it's $6,000. Like that's just what I have currently. Like I still have like 3 or 4 items I still got. It's the thing, like
Yeah.
so like and it goes to this, like there's a lot of other reseller gurus out there that say you have to have like 500, 800, 1,000 listings to make a certain amount of money per month. Like that's your base minimum. That means your
Mhm.
entire like reselling career is listing and shipping. Like that is the whole thing, right? But
Mhm.
like they do that to make $3,000 to $4,000 a month in profit. And I'm like,
Right.
dude, you got a full-time job at that point. Like, if not
Oh yeah.
more
Oh
than a
yeah.
full or a double full-time job at that point. Like that
Yeah.
listing stuff takes a lot of time, especially if you like go hard and get a light box and get a professional camera and like
Yep.
do all of that stuff. And it's just like, bro, that's
Yeah.
exhausting. Like,
I mean, well, you kind of can't afford not to. Like if you buy if that is your business model, and that's what you know to do. And maybe let's say, I don't want to be unkind to people that don't know how to flip
yeah,
or
yeah.
buy and resell electronics because I think some people don't.
We all
Like
came
there are
from
group,
that.
Yeah, there are
I went
groups
to
I post
Goodwill.
in. Yeah, there are groups I post in where I'm like, hey, I flipped this. They're like, how do you buy and resell electronics? Like they just seem out of reach. And I'm like, well, that again, that's just a mental ceiling that you've conditioned yourself to believe, and that's not believable. That's not true. Like, um, there was no precedent for buying and reselling consoles when I started, but I knew that there were people reselling other stuff, and I knew there were people buying and reselling phones. So I was like, consoles, I'm sure have equally the opportunities. Like, what is it for you, Chris, that really does it for electronics? Like, if you had to answer this in a very condensed or concise way, why electronics?
Dude, it's easy. 80 to $100 in profit per device I buy. Like I can buy three devices and make the same amount or more than a full-time job on a daily basis. Like, we had
That'll
Anthony on
preach.
one of our podcasts a while back, and I really like the things that he says. If you buy one
Yes.
item a day, that kind of helps you take the job away or whatever his little rhyme is, right? Like, but
Yeah.
like three a day means you're free,
Yeah.
right? Like if you buy three items a day and you're hitting 80 to $100 in profit per device, and it can be anything. It doesn't have to just be phones. You can flip anything else. Like, I mean,
Yep.
I bought this yesterday. I bought this Oculus, so this was one thing, right?
Ayo.
And I hit up my Amazon liquidation store, and I bought
Hey.
this. This is a DJI goggles Integra,
That's a good flip. That's a good flip
and
right
then
there.
I got this. So like I got a smartwatch. So I bought this for $40. It'll sell for like 140,
Oh, that's
right?
sick.
So it's like that's the time like and they're number and also they're like super easy to ship, dude. Like you just throw it in a box, maybe some bubble wrap.
Yeah.
Like
I don't even, I'm glad you mentioned that because I don't think some people even think about like, okay, there are other easy, like if you flip and resell jewelry, great. But what if you flip and resell like, I don't know, vintage porcelain or china or dishes or something made of glass or something fragile or like,
I've done
you
that.
know, like,
I did
yeah.
that. So whenever I was buying from Goodwill and stuff, very early on in my career in my side hustle, um,
Well
dude,
said.
I shipped out a glass like set of things, and they all broke before they got there. So that was crazy.
Oh, that's
Um,
devastating.
so like it was after that experience, I was like, I'm good. Like also the like learning how to grade that stuff on condition.
Yeah.
Bro, and then even figuring out what it is. Like sometimes you can't even find a match online. Like you
Yeah.
can
A
you can
lot
use the
of,
eBay photo filter thing. You can type in whatever you want. Sometimes you just can't find the right thing, and it's very difficult. Like it's very difficult to source things that are just random. I see Gary Vee doing it all the time, and I stitched a video of his the other day of him. You know, he found a toy that sells for $20, and I'm like, bro,
that's cool.
flip some
I,
electronic. I mean, it's cool, yeah, but at the
yeah.
same time, like, what I don't think a lot of people realize is like that stuff takes forever to sell. Like, I
Yeah.
can only imagine the warehouse that Gary Vee has for this
Yeah.
stuff. I
It,
mean,
I think the nuance of reselling is amazing. And at first, like if you're like, dude, I bought this for $1, it sold for $20. Holy cow. Right?
yeah, yeah.
All right. Now when you level up and that becomes normal, and you're like, dude, I'm like killing myself to make $20 per listing. And you start to realize, okay, like sustainability, I think is one of the keywords in my brain that I have to kind of go, okay, what's a sustainable business model? If someone's really like, and when people start talking about, well, yo, I want to go like full time, I want to be a professional reseller or a full time flipper. Okay, like, well, how much do you need? Because that's where it's like when you start to drill down to the numbers, right? That's the rubber meeting the road. That's a traction point and a great question to be like, okay, like sustainability, like how much do you need? How much do you need for you, or how much do you need for you and your spouse, or how much do you need for you and your family of like five, where you got three kids and yada yada, right? That's where that stuff starts to get real, and then it's like, oh, I need to be making like 65 grand a year minimum. I need to be making like 70K. Okay, are $20 items going to get you there? And I'm not saying they can't, but are you going to be working like an absolute dog? Uh, to accomplish that because as I get older, I find the older I get, I'd like to be inputting less for more outputting to
Yeah,
happen.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, because you want your time to go elsewhere, right? Like,
Absolutely.
I see a lot of resellers whenever they start, like the reselling business consumes them, and like it's
Mm,
all they can do because like it
right.
becomes their job basically.
Yeah.
Um, and while that's cool, and we all got to start somewhere, and sometimes you got to put in more hours in the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, um, it is what it is, right? Like
Yeah.
I think the crazy thing about the whole thing is like how much space. I remember whenever I was learning how to flip other items, how much space it actually took up in my head, like that I had to know and that
Yeah.
I would probably never use again, you know?
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest things, but you could use that knowledge in other spaces sometimes. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
well, the last thing that looked like this sold for this, so
Yeah.
maybe I'll give it a shot. The only thing is, like, can you imagine how much money is in like a lot of the inventory that you're taking forever to sell, right? Like, dude,
You're not wrong. Yeah.
that's great. Like, how much money is in those 800 listings? How much? Like, I think one of my biggest things is like, I really like to make the 80 to $100 per device that I buy, but at the
Yeah.
same time, I want my cash coming back as fast as possible. Like I'm
Indeed.
looking for that hidden, like if I buy something, I want that money back in my bank account within 5 days. And a lot of the times that happens because and I can just
Yeah.
and I can turn and burn like very fast at that point,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I can just take the money that I just used. And I tell a lot of fix and flippers this too, because a lot of people are like, well, should I get into repairs on electronics? No, if you have no experience whatsoever repairing, don't do it. Like, you're going to be, you'll buy the thing, you'll wait for the part, you'll fix the thing. And now by the time, like, when you could have just sold it same day
Yeah.
and then grabbed the money, taken it, flipped another thing, you see how that works. Like, the cash flow is so much greater in my eyes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Terms of like just it's almost like a cash flow snowball to kind of quote Dave Ramsey here a little bit, like like the faster you move the stuff, like the bigger the snowball of buying power adds up. That actually might be something I add to our curriculum too. Like it's like a cash flow snowball.
Yeah.
Faster it
I feel
comes
like
back, the faster you can flip.
no, it's a valid point. I think most people that want like if you're listening to this and you want to get into reselling or you're in reselling, but you're not like let's say you're not at least at it like an intermediate phase where you've done this, you've made a couple $1,000s on eBay, you have an eBay store, you have some reviews, right? Or maybe you're selling on another platform and you kind of like have learned some aspects of the game. Like you're still pretty new to this then. And so like for anybody that of that capacity that's like hearing this, it's like you really have to think about like these things and you kind of got to not you kind of have to not get ahead of yourself in terms of like um certain things that you find yourself like entertaining or indulging. It's like, well, how do I make 60 grand? Right? Like, well, how about you make 5 grand first? Right? And then you'll begin to understand your capacity of do you even think you can do this? Right? Because I've had guys like, let's say within our coaching program, I had one guy come on, he's like, yeah, dude, I want to start doing like 10 to 15K a month, and I want half of that to be consoles. I've sold 5 grand in consoles a month, and that is a more concerted effort than like doing like phones, cameras, and consoles, right? Consoles have a lot of parts, right? A lot of those sell for a lot less than.
Yep.
So I'm not. I want you guys to be aware, like we're not like talking a game that we haven't like lived out, like I'm super aware and I think hopefully super self-aware of the amount of time and energy that goes into like reselling consoles, and like consoles is a great entry level item, but I'll stand by you, Chris, all day long and be like, bro, like if you really want to scale your electronics reselling business, get into phones, start buying some cameras, build some relationships with some people around your city that also like buy and resell stuff, and network so that you can get that inventory fast and the products you're moving sell fast. That's going to get you 60, 70, 80K pretty
Yeah.
quick.
No,
Like
100%. Yeah, for sure.
6 months to a year, you can be that guy. Like, and the cool thing is with the business model, I think that is taught here. You could probably you could learn it. It would take longer, but with this business model here, this is the fastest way I know how to get there.
Yeah,
to be
I
done
agree
on.
with that. Like in terms of like time ROI, right? Like we were to take
Yeah,
time and like figure out how the time return on investment looks like,
yeah,
right? It's like electronics is the fastest way. And the reason why is just because the market demands it, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
you want, and this is another thing that I see with a lot of resellers is like they flip things because they think they can flip it, right? Like they think they can flip it. However, the market determines everything, guys. Like if something is selling in the market, like so I heard this saying a while back and I really liked it. It was like find where the stream is, like the money stream is. Just find it where it is, and then just kind of wedge yourself into it a little bit and just get
Hmm.
a little piece. You just need a little piece. You don't need
Hmm.
the whole thing. You don't need the whole river. You just need like just that little offshoot into the little
Hmm.
estuary, that you kind of create
Hmm.
for yourself. But the money is already moving on the marketplaces. It's already there. You just kind of
Hmm.
have to figure out where it is. Now, it can be anything too. The thing,
Hmm.
like now we specify in electronics. So there's people that only sell phones. That's cool. They wedge themselves into that market and they
Yeah,
get a little piece for themselves, right?
yeah,
I
yeah.
talk about this in my ebook. You guys can go to episode 11 and listen to the whole 2 hour long monologue of me, doing the ebook. But I talk about how in a 200,000 person city, you can make six figures buying from 0.01% of the population. Like it's a math equation at that point, right?
Mm. Because
So,
everyone has a device, right?
yeah, exactly. Like the money is already everywhere in the marketplace. You just kind of have to move yourself in the way. And
Right.
that's kind of what we do with like Resellator and Resell Deck and things like that. We just help you kind of move your marketing efforts into those areas and just kind of
Yeah,
go where the money already is and
yeah,
just make money from it, right? So I think that's one thing that I see a lot of resellers do is they try to make money where there isn't money. Like they try to force it, right?
yeah, yeah,
Only to be discouraged when the market rejects them, right?
yeah.
So if you're selling
Or
coffee cups on eBay, it's gonna be a little difficult. There's how many coffee cups are on eBay that aren't sold? Probably a couple million.
yeah, like oh man, you start looking at Beanie Baby listings on eBay.
Oh boy. Yeah.
That's a that's a whole nother conversation that we won't get lost in that rabbit hole. But seriously, um, yeah, Black Diamond Disney videos and Beanie Babies, like stay
Mm.
away, folks. You've been warned. Um, but I will say like when you start like looking at it, I think from that perspective, like it really puts things at like a really good vantage point because it's like, okay, like what is something that everybody has that is higher dollar value? Okay. Well, I know what my phone costs, right?
Oh, you
Um,
upgraded. Look at that.
yeah, iPhone 15, baby. But I got this. I got
You
two
got it for a
iPhone
steal of a deal, I'm assuming.
I got two iPhone 15s for $400. So,
Bro, that's the beauty of this business. I have never had a phone bill for a phone itself.
oh
Like
wow.
crazy, right? Like ever.
Yeah. Yeah, I pay for my phone service, but that's all I'm paying for.
Exactly. Yeah, but I don't finance a phone. It's wild. Like,
Yeah.
continue what you were saying.
No,
Sorry.
no, no, it's cool. Like but it's different. Like, well, to that note, like my daughter was talking the other day. She's like, "Dad, I'm excited for Black Friday this year." I was like, "Honey, your dad's a reseller. Every day's Black Friday." Um, and I said that and then like caught up to the statement. I was like, the statement like ran ahead of me. It just jumped right out
It's
of my mouth.
so
And I was
true,
like,
man.
hmm.
It's so
Like
true.
like Black Friday is not even sexy, exciting, or inviting anymore
It's
because it's
not.
like, dude, when like I have I have an iMac G3, like a vintage iMac. It's 100% functional, working CD drive, working speakers. I bought it for $75. When I resell that, it's going to sell for 4 to 500. Right? That is crazy. Um, so
Every day
what
is
the,
Black
the the
Friday.
best deals you get on Black Friday are maybe like 30, 50% off, right? And people just, you know, they trample and stampede everybody else. And it's like, I think it's just something we've become culturally conditioned to. It's like, what I mean, and this is becoming more, maybe more philosophical and psychological about it, but like what is price? What is money? It's just an
Yeah.
exchange of perceived value. Why are Stanley Cups selling for a lot now when Stanley's been around for freaking decades? Like it, I mean, my dad took a Stanley thermos to his job back in the day to like pour hot soup into, and now suddenly everybody wants to like murder their seventh and eighth grade friends because they got the color that,
Yeah.
that they don't have or something. And you're like, dude, like, what is this? It's just
I met
it's
a guy
cultural hype.
flipping those, by the way. There was a reseller. He was a phone flipper who was also flipping Stanley Cups there during the craze. Like,
Right.
I was like, man, way to put yourself in the market. Like, I mean, it's not a bad idea. Like,
No. I mean, there's a channel, there's a stream. How long is that going to
yeah,
flow from that well or that fountain? We don't know,
yeah,
but we're going to ride this wave till it ends. And I get that. Like I flipped a lot of I used to go to Best Buy and I would buy PS5s
yeah,
and then I would like resell them. Not locally. I would actually resell them to direct buyers. And I was buying those for about 350 a piece
yeah,
and I was making 150 profit on each one and I did that for dozens of them, which was fantastic.
yeah.
Um,
It's just finding the streams, you know? Like,
yeah.
I think that's just what a lot of people don't realize is like there's already streams that you just have to find in the
Yeah.
marketplace. And I mean, we could lay it out for you guys right now. iPhones, Samsungs, MacBooks, iPads, smartwatches, cameras, VR, game console, like all of those have streams.
Yep.
Like imagine you buy and flip all of those. You get educated on all of those items, and now you know how to flip 10 different types of just very niche electronics, right? It's just
Hmm.
very niche.
Hmm.
Now you have like 10 streams coming to your little estuary that you have in the marketplace, right?
Hmm.
Like that's a lot. Like yesterday, the amount of buys were so different, but I still got three, right?
Yeah.
I got a watch, I got the Oculus, and then I got the other DJI thing. It's because I know my streams,
Yep.
right? So boom, there's the money. It's just moving yourself, wedging in there a little bit, and just know it like and I don't personally want to have 800 or 600 listings at a time. That to me, whenever I see stuff like that, I get anxiety. Like for real.
Oh, that makes me nervous right from the jump.
Well, I think it's because like you and I realize how much time that takes. Like
Hmm.
I don't even like listing one thing. Like
I feel
it's
that.
it's not fun. Like now when it's not even fun when it sells anymore. Like
Right.
which you and I have talked about this. Like once you get so good at something, it gets boring. There's no
Hmm.
magic happening anymore. And it's like, okay, this is just a daily grind at this point. I woke up to a
Hmm.
$600 return this morning. Whatever, doesn't matter. Been through that before,
Yeah,
and it's just a monotonous daily like routine that makes you money, and it's basically a job. But
it's
except
true.
I don't have to clock in anywhere, and I can do it whenever I want. Um, so I mean, it's interesting the differences there. Um, Now if you're just starting out, garage sale flipping and doing stuff like that might be a great way to start, get inundated into the market. There's a lot of people that found their niches in electronics that way.
Yeah, that's true.
We got one guy who he now only flips DJ equipment. Talk about niche, dude. Like,
Yeah,
but those things they hit for like 800 to $1,000 a piece.
yeah,
And he gets them for like 4 or 500. That's
yeah,
pretty good.
yeah. He knows his market, and I mean, I love that. I like what's interesting is like there's markets for all kinds of stuff. Even within the realm or niche of like electronics, like these little sub niches, like within consoles. More specifically, there's not just consoles, there's VR systems,
Yeah.
which didn't even exist until like 2016 when Oculus released the Rift CV1. Um, I think I'm sure there are obviously earlier versions of VR that hit, but I think that was the first like really like super consumer friendly like broadcasted one that I flipped. That's the first VR I ever flipped back in 2019. And it's like, oh, okay, this is the thing now. And I added that to my repertoire. And so now, teaching people video games, like the actual games themselves, consoles, plus VR systems is like my sweet spot. Um, and I think what it is, I think one thing that is important is speaking to like the boredom aspect is like you do have to find a way to make this interesting for yourself. Like for me, I like reselling consoles. They remind me of my childhood, the nostalgia that I experienced with them, and the fun that I had. And they're still fun to me. Like they're still fun. Like I have a Nintendo Wii U. Guess what? I bought it from a flip. Me and my daughter played Mario Kart on that 2 days ago and had a freaking blast. And I played Super Mario with my nephews a few months back over spring break when I went to Arkansas for a visit with them, right? To me, that's like super rewarding. And you know what? If I wanted to, I could be playing Xbox, PlayStation, like Oculus or
Hmm.
whatever, just from flipping. Like you get all these like fun experiences, and I think like that's just kind of like an extra sweet side to it. Is like, oh, let
Yeah.
me enjoy this flip before I flip it. And by the way, when I go to sell this, I'm going to make 2 or 3 times my investment, which just
Yeah.
feels like a cheat code.
I do agree with that. That part is really fun because I was playing around with the Quest 3 the other day when I messaged you on the Quest 3.
Oh,
Like
right. I remember
I was so amazed like at this whole thing. Like it was so fun. I want to keep it, but I am going to sell it. But like I was playing because it's one of those things like it started actually giving me a headache after a little while because the screen is literally right there. And I'm just
that.
like,
Right.
I can see why people don't keep them very long, you know.
Mm,
They still
yeah.
got some work to do there. But I do want to touch on that. So for you guys that are looking for your first stream of like reselling income, dude, VR is like in its baby infancy at this point in terms of like
Yeah.
flipping. We have students
Yeah.
that are absolutely killing it in that space right now. And it's
Yeah.
because I like to use this terminology a little bit. The the demand in the local market for VR is incredibly low. So whenever somebody goes to try and sell it, nobody wants it in the local market. Like it's
True.
like they're putting it on Facebook Marketplace or OfferUp and they're basically like fishing in a pond that's actually on the sidewalk. Like there's
Yeah.
not enough
That's
people. There's
true.
no fish that'll bite. But if you take from the sidewalk pond and put it on eBay, which is basically the Pacific Ocean, right? It
Accurate.
sells quickly. And there's a lot of opportunity there where you can make like on this Oculus, I bought it for $100. The controllers will sell together for 115. Like that's already guaranteed it's going to happen. Because the
Hmm.
last one sold like a week ago for that. And then the
Hmm.
headset, because it's got the Elite Strap thing, will sell for like 60. That's
Yeah.
an easy profit. And it was from a marketplace reach out, easy money.
Hmm.
I'm telling you guys, like that is a stream that is going to explode over the next couple of years because I see it as like that's what iPhones were back in like 2009 or 2010 or whatever it was, right? Not everybody had an iPhone. Not everybody
Yeah.
had a smartphone. But like and it was also kind of clunky. It wasn't super great yet, but over time everybody just kind of merged into that. Everybody
Hmm.
has a smartphone now. So the way
Hmm.
I see it as like the Quest 3, Quest 2, even the Valve Index is like equivalent to like iPhone 6 or iPhone 3G actually, like when they came out.
Oh
So,
man.
like imagine where it'll be in 5 years when we got the VR in our glasses. Like,
Mm.
Matt, you and I are going to be flipping VR glasses here in like 5 years, dude. Like, let's be real.
Probably in a year or two, to be honest,
Probably
because
it'll probably be sooner than that. Probably be integrated with
yeah.
OpenAI and they'll probably be hacking in all of our stuff. We're not going to go down that road, but
We're getting into conspiracy theory podcast
Yeah,
now.
I don't need to go down that road. I can go too, so I'm not going to do
So the NSA, no.
that.
Um,
Nvidia, Nvidia is the mark of the beast.
that's
But
right.
um,
Um,
but yeah. So let's move on to like we've talked about a good amount of this stuff, and
yeah.
let's talk about market trends and competition. I think that's good. I think that's so. Um, a lot of the time in regular market, the like regular reselling, um, market trends are massively unpredictable and massively influenced by like fashion and culture and then seasonal changes on top of that. We were just talking about the Stanley Cup earlier. like whenever that started, dude, it was massive. But now it's kind of like meh, you know? So it's like riding that wave like you were talking about. But with phones and electronics, the trends are, more or less driven by advancements in technology, product releases literally every year, and then
Mhm.
consumer demands for specific stuff. But and there is a little bit higher of a competition from other resellers. However, I've talked about this before. Like if you answer the phone, follow up with your leads, and actually run a business, you don't really have competition at all. Um, I've spoken on that many times.
Yeah. The I think the real super basic thing that everybody needs to understand is if you know where the value is and you consistently create a great customer experience and you just keep doing the basics consistently, the fundamentals consistently, like success is pretty much inevitable. It just becomes again a byproduct of doing that same thing consistently. And it's strange how people like ask these questions as though there's always like some sort of like magic bullet response, right? But I'm going to go to the Chris quote here. Doing the work is the shortcut, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Doing the work is the shortcut. Like that's the hack. You want the life hack to making six figures by reselling electronics, then consistently like deliver, like connect, build out a system. We have a system that's already prefabbed, but just build out a system of people that are consistently like bringing you product or where you can acquire product, get your inventory, create a great customer experience, get good feedback, rinse and repeat, right? Sell your product. We suggest selling it on eBay, right? I don't think there's a marketplace where you can command as high a premium. I do like Mercari. There is Poshmark. There's other stuff like that. But I think that eBay is going to be the one that's really going to reward you the most. Or you know what? If you're really just the truest phone flipper and all you want to do is resell phones, then find yourself a really solid direct buyer. And if you don't know anyone, like post in the comments, we'll hook you up.
yeah, we
Um,
got we got direct buyers, so make it
yep,
easy for you guys.
yep.
Um, so I have my Chat GPT notes here because it helped me, you know, utilizing my wiretap in my computer basically. But so a couple of like summaries here that we can talk about. Some advantages of just the traditional reselling and flipping. Um, Advantages are definitely like a lower barrier of entry, right? Like, and I think that's why we see a lot more people in that space than we do in like
Mhm,
the electronics, is because we are a niche within a niche, right?
mhm,
Um, but it's a low barrier of entry, broad product range, like
mhm,
buy, resell anything, less specialized knowledge required, right?
mhm,
You don't need a specialized knowledge in a certain field. Some of the disadvantages, though, lower and less predictable profit margins, like way less predictable. You never know what you're going to get. You're probably taking offers on everything, right?
mhm,
Then variable product quantity, and then obviously demand. There's not a lot of demand for everything. That's one of the biggest issues there. Is the market kind of peaks in certain areas for certain
mhm,
devices, right?
mhm,
Um, some some advantages and disadvantages with flipping phones and electronics. Definitely advantages are higher and more consistent profit margins. Definitely, like I said
mhm,
earlier, I aim for $80 to $100 in profit per device, and that is very predictable. Very predictable.
yep,
Specialized knowledge and it also leads to better sourcing and pricing because you can get
mhm,
like if somebody hits you with the same item over and over again, you can just keep offering the same amount for the same item over and over again. Like my example earlier with an iPhone 13 Pro Max, 200, 220, like that's the range I buy them in, and I get two or three of those a day, right? Like leads, that is, not devices. Sometimes it really depends on the day, but and then higher demand, like, is a big advantage. Phones and electronics always have a higher demand every single time. It's just kind of the way that works. And then some of the disadvantages, because I know a lot of you guys are going to ask, is there is a higher initial investment. Like that's a real thing. Um, However, if you got $500, you can start with consoles and VR, and
easy. So easy.
Easy. You can buy like 5 or 6 VR systems with that and then flip those for a 50, sometimes even 100% return on your investment. And
Easy.
like,
Yep.
you know, um, there's obviously a little bit higher competition, but let's be real, like, not really. And then there is a greater financial risk. I mean, that is a thing. Like you're selling higher end type of deals. Um, so if you're risk adverse,
Mhm.
maybe regular reselling is for you. Like it is what it is, right? Um,
Mhm.
but I prefer bigger risk, bigger reward personally.
Right on.
But I
Yep.
think the thing, like once you know what you're doing though, your skill set level goes up while your risk goes down at the same time, right?
Mhm.
As that skill set increases, because you always I always have this saying is like a mistake is just a learning opportunity. So like, okay, maybe you put the incorrect listing or something for that device, or maybe you did something wrong in the description. Okay, cool. It's a mistake. You just learn from it and then fix it. And and we were talking about this with Anthony. Like people would ask him questions and it wasn't in the description. He would just add it. Like, you know, that's how easy it is, right? It's a feedback loop on top of that.
Yep.
So, I want to hear your take on like what are some of the advantages and disadvantages of like the traditional reselling versus like the phone flipping and electronics, things like that.
Um, so the quantity of product is one thing. The amount of stuff you need to feel like you need to make enough money. I would say most humans to really make their household function, you're probably looking at what? I'd say $200 a day.
Yeah,
Let's just start there, right?
yeah,
$200 a day, I think, is a really fair assessment, and that could work across all regions geographically here. Let's keep it focused on the U.S. Okay. Um, so at $200 a day, I got to ask myself, like, okay, like if I'm selling shirts, how many shirts is that? If I'm flipping sneakers, how many sneakers is that? If I'm reselling iPhones or electronics or consoles, like what does that look like? You have to know those numbers. And I think that those numbers, when you look at traditional reselling, you make less and you need more product. So in the end, it's a volume game, right? And with reselling electronics, there's a trade-off there where that eventually inverts itself. You make more, but you have less product because the premium for those items cost more. Wait, Matt, an iPhone costs more than a I don't know, Johnny Cupcake shirt or a Stussy shirt or whatever. Well, yeah, of course. Um, now, the sneaker game's like a whole different thing, right? Do you have 5 to 10K to buy the best bot to like flip
played
sneakers
with
and
that for a little while. I didn't enjoy
yeah.
the sneaker game because the profit margins just weren't there for me. Like,
Hmm.
so I actually started running ads, and I have a YouTube video over running ads for sneakers, and I was getting leads for like $1 or $2 a lead. Like it was wild. Like, and I had people
Wow.
sending me their entire closet full of sneakers. Like, and like they knew I was a reseller too because they were reselling
Right.
themselves.
Of course they were. Of course.
Um, so like I would make an offer and like it would be a fair offer where I make about like $20 per box, right? And they would be like no, but at the same time I was like $20 per box. I'd have to be moving a lot of product
Hmm.
to make some money there. And then on top of that, the inspection, making sure it's like good before you put it on like I think it's StockX or something like that with one of those sneaker selling websites. And I was
Hmm.
just like, bro, I can just buy an iPhone and make like $100 to $150 like today.
Yeah.
And just
And
do that 3 times and boom, that's one of those days and it's
mhm.
um yeah,
Yeah, and I
there's
think
a market for sure.
absolutely. Um, I mean I've resold some sneakers. You know, I've sold Jordans. I've flipped I've flipped that kind of stuff. But if you want to talk about if you want to talk about like there's red ocean and blue ocean strategies, right? Red ocean, there's already a lot of sharks in the water. Blue ocean, there's a lot of fish, but not as many sharks. And I think electronics is a blue ocean strategy because I mean, just having been in this space for a long time, I think I think consoles is like an extra mega blue ocean
Yeah,
strategy.
no, consoles
Um,
is definitely blue ocean, and we are going to be into that
yeah,
here soon when your course drops, um,
yep, coming
because
soon, folks.
you have kind of you're you know you're the console king, like no lie, like
Yeah,
everything I know about console. Well, I mean, I was flipping consoles before we met, but not to the degree you were.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I
No,
was
it's
only
been
running ads, and I mean, you're the person who turned me back on to reach outs. So, I'm,
guilty.
yeah, I'm not. I was very opposed to reach outs altogether because I
Yeah,
thought it was a gigantic waste of time. Um,
yeah. I
but
will.
hey,
I wanted to finish responding to your question.
yeah,
Traditional versus like what Chris and I do. And understand, guys, I know everybody has a bias, right? I know everybody has a bias. Somebody's going to watch this and be like, "Man, I really like my way better." Okay, great. That's your opinion. Like, we're not trying to state this matter of factly that our way is definitively better. What we're trying to give you though is like factual evidence, experience, and hopefully in some cases like data as to like why. Like my ROI from last year was 78% ROI for reselling, and I feel like that's like pretty sound to build a business model around. And that's pretty consistent with what I've done year after year for the last 5 years. Right. So that doesn't surprise me. However, like knowing your numbers is important. For a lot of people, you might sell stuff. Well, if you sell stuff on eBay, you might know something called sell through rate. Well, what's sell through rate is the amount of items that sell versus the amount of items that listed. And sell through rate is really important. And you can find this information on Terapeak, which you can access if you have an eBay subscription or store. But eBay Terapeak is a great resource for getting data on stuff. Look at traditional like reselling items and look at the sell-through rating on something like, I don't know, like pick anything. Pick some porcelain, pick some shoes, pick some shirts or whatever, right? Most of that stuff going to be pretty low. And I'd probably say somewhere between like 15 to maybe like 30%. If it's 40%, that's actually pretty good. I recently was looking at sell-through rating as I was updating the price sheets because, in this group, I curate price sheets to help our resellers resell consoles faster. Um, that's just to give you guys a perspective of the quality of coaching, the level we like to deliver on. But as I was updating my price sheets, I was checking the sell-through rating on Nintendo Switch consoles, 68%. So consider this, guys. That means that that's almost 70%, right? We're 2%. So let's just call it 70%. We'll make a little concession here for that. And if you guys will be so gracious, I'd appreciate it. But 70% sell-through rating means that for every 7 out of 10 Switch consoles that are going on eBay, they're flying off the shelves. That is massive. That is speed. And that is why I'm more interested in reselling consoles, VR systems, and video games more than flipping traditional stuff. And I have some traditional stuff. If I find like a high ROI item that I need to sit on, that's fine. But here's my strategy. My strategy is I'm gonna like I'm going to stack this deck so that I have speed of sale, but also like size of sale, and I'm going to balance those two. So if I get the big ROI, right, because I don't know, flipping like a cooktop or something crazy, cool, that can sit in my garage for a long time. But I've got the speed over here to compensate for the lack of speed on this thing. And I think like that's how you kind of try to marry those and balance them out if you want to play that game. That's my personal approach and strategy. So Chris will tell you, like, I'll buy things from people via reach outs. I'll do upsells from those reach outs. I'll get really good ROI items, and I operate my business like that, right? Do I run console ads? No, actually, I don't, not yet.
not yet.
Um, but Chris has sold me on the idea that if you really want to scale your electronics reselling business, like I think you really got to consider incorporating something that's going to move really, really fast. And there, just to be clear with all of you guys, for everybody that watches this, hears this, there's nothing that resells faster on eBay than an iPhone. Even consoles don't sell as
Yeah, I think
fast as
it's
phones. Why? Because everybody uses one, needs one, or wants one.
yep. No, I think I mean that is a good point. Like, um, so yeah, I mean, so I want to move back here real fast to
All
something
right.
you said. So you said 78% ROI for the year.
Mhm.
Like, can you imagine that in like an investing account? Like,
Ugh.
like, like if you were to just like if it wasn't like helping you pay bills and stuff, like if like that was just sitting in an account, you were just using it to buy and flip and buy and flip and buy and flip, and the
Yeah.
78%, like it just grows year over year at almost the
Mhm.
same. I think what the stock market's like 10 to 20, except it doesn't, it's not it's not the same as compounding, but like
Yeah. Well,
78% is still pretty freaking good.
some
Like,
people would kill for 20%. Like, oh, put in 100 grand, now you have 120. Put in 100 grand,
yeah,
now you have 178. You've almost doubled your investment. Like,
yeah,
I mean, do the
wild.
math on that compounded over time. That's insane.
Yeah, wild. So, like, I think that is one thing that most people don't realize either is like you can make insane ROI on electronics with speed of sale on top of it. Like,
Yeah.
I think
Game
that's,
changer.
yeah, it's a game changer for sure. So, well, we're coming up on the hour. I think this is probably a good place to stop. In terms of like, let us know if you guys like this stuff, traditional reselling or trash reselling versus electronics reselling. I think I'm just gonna call it traditional reselling. um, don't want to offend those people out there, but at the same time, I'm not. You guys go and list your 800 items. I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna list my 10 and 5 sell the next day. Like that's the kind of stuff I like to do. Um, and I think like in the beginning, whenever I was learning like all about reselling, like I
Yeah.
did dive into the stuff you guys do. I did dive into one dumpster for something, and I was like, I'm not doing this, dude. Like, this is weird. Um, like it was weird for me. I went into Goodwill a lot trying to find things.
Mm.
Um,
Hmm.
it's just not for me. I'm not, you know. However, Gary V is right. Like if you're looking to replace your job, you can do garage sales every weekend for a
Straight up.
year and probably make 6 figures. Um,
Yep.
but if you want to do it faster, we can help with that for sure.
Yeah. There, there is a more expeditious way that's, I think, less painful. And to summarize it in some of you guys' own words, hey, smarter, not harder, right? Working smarter. Because everybody says they work hard. Like everyone's like, what? Why should we hire you for this job? Strong work ethic, right?
I'll get it done in
Okay,
a day. There you go. Like
right.
money
Yeah,
loves
I mean,
speed, right?
it does. And it's pretty satisfying to even for myself, who I don't consider myself a massive phone flipper. The last phone I sold was an iPhone 12 that I bought with a cracked back and a bad face ID. Like the front facing camera wasn't great, and I bought it for $20, and I put it on eBay, and it sold in less than 48 hours for $120.
Where do you get that anywhere else? Like
Bro,
other
that's
than when you flip cars and other things, but
yeah,
still. Well, guys, a couple of resources for you guys. You guys can check out my ebook in video and audio format, episode 11 of the podcast. If you want the actual PDF and stuff like that, a couple of bonuses that go along with it, you can get that for $4.95. It's a steal of a deal, by the way. um, uh, and then on top of that, guys, if you guys are, someone who wants to skip the 6 month learning curve and take it to the next level faster than ever, you just feel free to apply to work with us inside of Reselerator. That's where we
yep,
help our students one on one, get them up and running
yep,
quickly and stuff like that. And then if you want, shameless plug here, we've partnered with Aaron Goldstein and we are purchasing phones and mostly iPhones right now, but eventually other electronics on top of that directly from people. So it's one reason we put out a lot of content is to make sure that we're hitting our customer base and we want to earn your business in some way. Because we plan on doing this for a long time. So um, that being said, guys, appreciate you guys watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Let us know in the chat, on YouTube, on Facebook, and if there's any topics you guys want us to cover, feel free to put it in the comments. Um,
yeah.
we like getting ideas from resellers themselves. That way we can answer you guys questions directly. So with that being said, this has been another episode of the Smart Flip. You guys have a great day. Keep crushing. Bye.